you know what a behavior pattern is.
Yes.
Now, the way in which, say, a weaver bird builds its nest, that is an inherited form in him. He will apply all certain symbiotic phenomena between insects and plants. They are inherited patterns of behavior. And so man has, of course, an inherited scheme of functioning. You see, his liver and his heart and all his organs and his brain will always function in a certain way, following its pattern. We only have a great difficulty of seeing it because we cannot compare. There are no other similar beings like man that are articulate and could give account of their functioning. If that were the case, we would know, I don't know what. But because we have no means of comparison, we are necessarily unconscious about our own conditions. But it is quite certain that man is born with a certain functioning, a certain way of functioning, a certain pattern of behavior. And that is expressed in the form of archetypal images, of archetypal forms. For instance, the way in which a man should behave is given by an archetype. Yeah. And therefore, you see, the primitives tell such stories. A great deal of education goes through storytelling.
Yes.
For instance, they call in a palaver of the young men and to older men, perform before the eyes of the younger all the things they should not do. Yeah. And at the end they say, now that is exactly the thing you shall not do. Another way is they tell them of all the things they should not do.
Yeah.
And you, like the Decalogue, thou shalt not.
Yes, yes.
And that is always supported by mythological tales.
Yes.
For instance, our ancestors have done so and so, and so you shall do.
Yes.
Or such a hero has done so and so,
yes.
And that is your model.
Yes.
For instance, take the teaching of the Catholic Church. There are several thousand saints, and they show us how, you see,
they models and become the models for the individual.
And they have their legends, and that is Christian mythology.
Yes.
In Greek, you know, there was a Theseus, there was a Heracles, models of fine men, of gentlemen, you know.
Yes. Yes.
And they teach us how to behave. They are archetypes.
I see.
Archetypes of behavior. So you see, when you have lived in the primitive circumstances, in the primeval forest, among primitive populations, then you know that phenomenon. You are seized with a certain spell, and then you do a thing that is unexpected. Now, see, the archetype is a force. It has an autonomy. It can suddenly seize you. It is like a seizure.
Yeah.
So, for instance, falling in love at first sight, that is such a case. You see, you have a certain image in yourself without knowing it of the woman, of the woman.
Yeah.
Now you see that girl, or at least a good imitation of your type.
Yeah.
And instantly you get a seizure, and you're gone.
Yeah.
And afterwards you may discover that it was a hell of a mistake. Or you see, a man is quite capable, he's intelligent enough to see that that woman of his choice, as one says, not no choice, he has been captured.
Yeah.
You know, he sees that she is no good at all, that she is a hell of a business. And he tells me so, and he said, for God's sake, doctor, help me to get rid of that woman. He can't. He's like clay in her fingers. And that is the archetype. That is so-called archetype of the anima.
Yes, yes.
He thinks it is all his soul. Well, in our Dutch it's a bit complicated, you know. The anima is an archetype, an archetypal form expressing the fact that a man has a minority of feminine or female genes.
Yeah.
And that is something that doesn't disappear in him. That is constantly present. And it works as a female in a man. Therefore, already in the 16th century, the humanists have discovered that man has an anima.
I see.
And that each man carries his female with himself, they say it.
Yeah. And so
that is not a modern invention.
Yeah.
So now you see, the same is the case with the animus. That is a masculine image in a woman's mind, which is not sometimes quite conscious, sometimes it is not conscious, but it is called into life the moment that woman meets a man who says the right things.
I see.
And then because he said it is all true, and he is the fellow.
Yes.
No matter what he is.
Yes. So, to infer something.
Those are particularly well-founded archetypes.
Yeah.
Those two, and there you can lay hands on the basis, as it were, of the archetype. They are exceedingly well defined.